I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real.
Have I ever told you the story of the magical pistachio? I got lost in the grocery store and couldn't find my way out.
I was perfecting my moves for TikTok.
All right, so if you've been on the internet for any amount of time, you've probably seen your fair share of AI content. Now, this content is generally made to be somewhat funny and unserious, so I tend to not think too much about it. However, this technology has a lot more to it than I realized. Imagine this: you're called to court because you stole some yarn from my store, let's say. However, you're obviously a good person with strong morals, and you definitely did not steal the yarn from my store, so you plead innocent. But what if I tell you that I have a video of you stealing the yarn from my store? Does that change anything? Regardless, let me be clear, this type of technology, deepfake technology, it is incredible. It can be used for so many things, including helping people with disabilities to express themselves better online. It can help to dub different languages more seamlessly into TV shows, other content. It's a two-sided coin, right? That's why I decided to have Divya on the show to help me learn more about this type of technology. And yeah, this is our interview. So, Divya, can you give me a little rundown of yourself and kind of who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here today. Thanks for having me. I'm Divya. I recently completed my undergrad at Berkeley, where I studied computer science and some linguistics. I'm currently a master's student at Columbia, where I'm studying computer science and focusing on machine learning. This summer, I'm an intern in JP Morgan's Machine Learning Center of Excellence, where I'm working on some interesting problems related to large language models and speech recognition. So yeah, happy to talk about a little bit about how I got here, why I'm interested in this space. But yeah, I'll let you lead the conversation.
Cool. It sounds like you're kind of into a lot of different fields at the same time. So now let's move on to deepfakes, which have become a significant concern for misinformation, especially now with the whole election and everything. From your perspective, what are the other possible ethical concerns of deepfake technology?
Right. So as you said, first and foremost, there's the issue of misinformation. So deepfakes can be, and they've already been used a lot to create false representations of people, particularly public figures. A doctored video of a political leader or an influential figure making a fake endorsement, or something like this can have really great potential to manipulate public opinion, and that's really worrying. So I think the other major ethical concern is the violation of consent. So when people's images and voices can be used without their permission, creating scenarios that they've never participated in, this can lead to significant personal repercussions. So damaging individuals' reputations, affecting their personal relationships, even impacting their professional lives. So digital impersonation can be really deeply harmful. And, hand in hand with consent goes privacy. So in an era when your digital identity can be so convincingly duplicated, what does privacy really mean? How do we protect the rights of individuals when creating a convincing fake is so easy? I think deepfakes in the audio context are particularly interesting to me. So, for example, take speech biometrics. So when a person uses their voice to authenticate themselves over the phone. So I've come across this in the financial or healthcare domains, often to authorize transactions or guarantee that you're consenting to something or the other. So this technology can really pose a threat to both customer privacy and patient confidentiality, which is very serious. So zooming out to the broader societal implications, if looking forward, if people can't believe what they see or hear, that begins to really paint a very concerning outlook for the future.
Yeah, that thing about consent is really interesting too, because when people first post things online, they aren't really thinking about, is this going to be turned into like a video of me stealing something or something like that? Also, another thing, the financial and medical sector stuff, I've seen how obviously there's a lot of social concern, but there's also a lot of privacy issues. So, what are some potential regulatory measures that could mitigate those concerns?
Yeah, I mean, that's a super important question. As technology continues to advance at a rapid pace, because it's going to, the intersection of technology and law is going to become even more complex and integral. So, we're likely to see new regulations and laws specifically designed to address the unique challenges of this technology. For instance, with the rise of deepfakes and other generated AI content, there would be stronger copyright and identity protection laws aimed at combating misuse while still, protecting people's right to innovate. That's the other side of things. I know several states have begun to pass laws criminalizing certain kinds of deepfakes, but there is a very long way to go in this evolving landscape because, typically technology evolves much more quickly than legislation can keep up. So legislation is often unequipped to handle the increasingly nuanced circumstances that arise with new technology. So, I hope we'd see a push towards more like dynamic legal frameworks that can adapt more quickly to technological changes, kind of mitigating this kind of legislative lag that we've seen historically from slowing down tech advancements. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how technologists, legal experts, and policymakers collaborate to both protect individual rights but still encourage technological growth.
I've never thought of it that way. I feel like a lot of the laws, we've seen it with CRISPR, we've seen it with like a lot of other technology. Laws can't really keep up with the technology. Yes, I think dynamic frameworks would really help. Kind of switching back to the financial sector, what are some other ethical concerns of the generative AI and deepfake audio in the financial sector?
Yeah, I think zooming out from generative AI, but more generally, AI in the financial sector, I think it's really exciting, how it's already innovating, the finance world. The first thing that comes to mind is customer service. So, traditionally, if you needed help with your bank account or wanted to make a transaction, you'd have to visit your bank in person or spend a lot of time on the phone. But now, so much of that has been automated where you can speak to a virtual assistant to get your problem solved. So whether that's transferring money or checking your account balance or even getting investment advice, those kinds of things have become a lot easier. I think the other space where there's a lot of potential for growth is in the space of unstructured financial data, which banks have a lot of. So, whether that's articles, reports, financial statements, AI tools can help analyze these kinds of reports. They have the power to predict stock trends or alert about potential market shifts. So there's some really exciting developments in fintech, especially. I think one area which is pretty interesting to me is the area of like security and compliance. So security and compliance is hugely important to financial companies. Speech recognition and NLP and more generally AI tools can be employed to monitor and analyze customer calls and interactions for signs of fraud or other kinds of discrepancies. So these are all really exciting areas of potential. But, to your question, I think firstly, there's the issue of bias, right? Like AI systems learn from historical data, and if this data contains biases, then so will the AI. So if you take an example like loan approval, if a system has been trained on past data that's subtly discriminated against certain demographics, it might continue to do so, leading to really unfair financial decisions, which can have long-term impacts on people, affecting their ability to obtain loans, credit, housing, and privacy is another significant concern. So, as I mentioned, financial institutions handle really massive amounts of sensitive personal and financial information. So AI systems require a lot of data to operate effectively. And so there's an increased risk of data misuse or breaches. And so customers need to feel like their data is being handled securely and ethically. And if their privacy is compromised and they start losing that trust, it can really impact the financial system. So kind of in summary, we need to be able to explain why an AI system makes a decision that it does. We're now all familiar with the term black box, when a decision isn't easily understood by humans. So when an AI makes a decision that adversely affects its customers, customers, for one, have the right to understand why that decision was made, and then companies also need to be able to explain that. So yeah, those are some of the things that come to mind.
A lot of people would say that they wouldn't want an AI making the decision to, accept a loan request. They would want a human to be behind the phone doing that. Cool. So are there any, last thoughts, final messages you'd like to share?
I think we've really covered a lot of what I really care about. As you go forward with, what you develop, just be mindful and yeah, keep in mind, who's going to be using your tools, who's going to be using your products every step of the way. How are you giving it your best effort to make what you're building as robust as possible?
Thank you so much. That was a really filled interview. I feel like I learned so much from that.